Alright, so today we're going to do our first video on conics. It's going to start with the parabola introduction. So these forms that you see on the left and right side in bold, those are the two common formulas for a parabola. On the left we have what is called vertex form, and that is the form y equals a, parentheses x minus h squared plus k. And then that opens up if a is greater than 0, and it opens down if a is less than 0. That means, let me fix my pen real quick. So that means that if a is greater than 0, it's going to go like that, and if a is less than 0, it's going to be going down. And then vertex is at the point hk. Notice that the h in the formula is subtracted, so just be careful with that. And then we have on the right, we have standard form, and that takes the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Then that also follows the same rule that if a is greater than 0, it's going to open up. And if a is less than 0, it'll be opening down. Then the x value of the vertex is negative b over 2a, and that's the hard part about standard form, is finding the vertex. So if we have this formula for an x value, the way we find a y value is plugging it back in and solving for the y. And there's another way to find the vertex for standard form that we'll go over. So here we have a problem. We have y equals x, parentheses x minus 3 squared plus 1, and that's obviously in vertex form. So let's rewrite our vertex form, which is y equals a x minus h squared plus k. And if I want the vertex, and I want which way it's going to open up, so we can draw a quick sketch of it. So first we have a equals 2, which is, well, that's greater than 0, so that tells me, well, this graph is going to open up. And then we also have an h, which is 3. Be careful not to write negative 3 because the standard is negative, so our our h value as a whole is positive. So h equals 3. Then our k value is 1. And remember that our vertex is at the point hk. So in this case, our vertex equals 3, 1. So now if we were to draw a quick graph, we've got 1, 2, 3, and we've got 1. That's where our vertex is. And then we can use the fact that a is greater than 0, so we know that it's going to be opening this way. It's going to be opening up on both sides. That's not a very good parabola, but you get the point. It's opening up, and the vertex is at 3, 1. So that's just using vertex form. Notice that using vertex form makes it very fast to find the vertex and if it's opening up or down, because everything is just written out in the formula. And now we'll get to the tougher problems, which are when it starts in standard form. There are two ways to solve it. I'll go through one way first, which is not going to be completing the square, and there's another way that you can complete the square. So now let's remember our formula, which is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So now, well, we've got a equals 2, and that is also greater than 0, which means this graph is going to be going up. Then now the hard part is finding the vertex, and remember from this top part, x value of the vertex is negative b over 2a. So we can take negative b, x equals negative b over 2a. And our b value in this equation is going to be what is the coefficient in front of x, which in this case is 4. So b is 4, but remember the formula calls for negative b, so it's going to be negative 4 over 2 times a, which we decided earlier was 2, which equals negative 4 over 4, which simplifies to just negative 1. So we know the x value of the vertex now is negative 1. And so now to find the y value, we have to plug negative 1 back into our equation, which is y equals 2 times negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1 plus 1, which equals, remember that negative 1 squared is just positive 1, so that'll be 2 plus, and then 4 times negative 1 is negative 4 plus 1, and we'll get 2 minus 4 is negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So that's our y value at the vertex. So if our y value is negative 1 and our x value is negative 1, we have a vertex at negative 1, negative 1. So that using this way, we would get a graph that looks like this right here. We got negative 1, we got negative 1. And then we said a was positive, so it's going to be going up and going up. And then also another way to do it that your teacher might have showed you is completing the square to get it into from standard form back into this vertex form that we have y equals a x minus h squared plus k. So we can do that. I personally think this way is a lot tougher, but it is another option. So let's try to complete the square. So we'll set it up y equals, first step in completing the square, let's group everything together. Group our x's together, So for x plus 1. And then first, we have to make sure that whatever is in front of x squared has to equal 1. So to do that, we have to take out a 2. So y equals 2. Then we're going to be left with x squared plus, we have to take out 2 of this part as well, which is going to leave 2x. Then we're going to have to add some value that we'll decide, and then plus 1. And then if we add a value to this side, remember we have to add a value to this side, have to be fair. So then the way we find out what that value is, we're going to get y equals 2 times, then remember we take 1/2 of that value, so 1/2 of 2 equals 1, so it'll be x plus 1 squared. And remember to find what value we add, we do this value and we square it, which is going to give us 1. Then remember we have to add, if we added it to the right side, we have to add it to the left. But also notice that really we have added 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 1. We've added 2x squared plus 4x, which is just like the original problem. But then we've also added plus 2 if we distribute that out. So we can't just add 1 to the other side, we have to add 2 to the other side. So we have 2 plus y equals, let me rewrite this so I have more space. Y plus 2 equals 2 x plus 1 squared. Then we still have our plus 1 on the outside from here, plus 1. So then now we're almost back into this vertex form we want. The vertex form, remember, is this. So the problem that we have right now is we have a number on the y side, so we just need to subtract that to the other side. So let's take this 2, subtract by 2, and we're going to be left with y equals 2 x plus 1 squared minus 1. And now this is the vertex form that we had originally. So now we can just solve for this. Remember, we have a equals 2 again, so it opens up. Then we have h, we're looking for the values of h and k. And now remember that k is positive now in this one, but remember that the formula says that y equals a x minus h plus k. So to make that value positive, the value of h actually had to be negative, because it would have been like x minus a negative 1, which just turns into x plus 1. So that's the case we have here, h equals negative 1. And then our y value, our k value, is just whatever is on the end, so that's still negative 1. So negative 1. So again, our graph here, after completing the square and everything, we would get negative 1. Negative 1 is our vertex. And then again, our a value is 2, so it's opening up. Something like this. And then notice that's the same thing we had here. It's the same equation. Our vertex is still negative 1, 1. And over here, it's negative 1, 1. And a equals 2 in both cases. A equals 2 right here. So just notice that either way you solve it is the same solution. So there's the first option is to just use the formula x equals negative b over 2a. X equals negative b over 2a. And the second option is to complete the square. Or complete the square and solve it like you had it in vertex form. Either way will give you the same answer. It's just a matter of preference. Which one do you like better? Which one is quicker for you? Personally, I think using the x equals negative b over 2a and then plugging that value in is a lot faster, but you can do whatever you're comfortable with. Thanks for watching.